Hi there, welcome back to the British Columbia Youth Parliament's series of parliamentary procedure videos. In this video, I will be teaching you how to move a motion at an online youth parliament session. If you haven't watched our video on what a motion is, I recommend that you watch that one first. First of all, know that the only motion that does not need to be written out is the motion that the speaker or chair do not leave the chair. It's the motion that formally dismisses the presiding officer at the end of a sitting or at the end of committee stage. This means that you'll need to submit all other motions in writing. A Google form will be used for submitting these motions. The form will be available at bcip.org/motion, but if you use a browser such as Microsoft Edge that prevents you from accessing that page because there is a form embedded in it, you will also receive a direct link to the form. Unless you are moving that the speaker or chair do not leave the chair, you will need to fill out that form before you can move your motion. Try to fill out the form approximately when you want to move your motion, so try not to submit your motion a very long time in advance. When filling out the form, you will first need to indicate if you made your motion in the House or in committee. This will help the clerks when they are writing the parliamentary journal for distribution at the end of session. So how would you know when Parliament is sitting as the House or as a committee, you might ask? There are two ways you can tell. One, when a bill is being debated line by line, Parliament is in committee stage, and everything else from question period to second reading to private members' resolutions occurs as the House. Or, the vast majority of the time, when the Speaker is presiding over or moderating debate, Parliament is sitting as the House, and if the Deputy Speaker is presiding over or moderating debate, the House is sitting as a committee. If in doubt, you can always ask a member who has attended a youth parliament session before, such as someone on cabinet or a house leader. In this one, write out your full name. Pretty straightforward. So down here in the moved by section, fill in your cabinet or shadow cabinet title if you have one, or otherwise, fill in your constituency. So your constituency will be something like Richmond North Centre number 1, and what you would write in would be member for Richmond North Centre number 1, for example. You will receive your constituency shortly before session. Your constituency, for the most part, does not mean too much and might not even correspond to your real-life constituency, but that's fine. It's just how you're referred to in Parliament. Now, onto the seconded by section. This is where you will note your motion seconder if needed. A seconder is basically the main supporter of your motion, although most motions do not need seconders. You can see the 5 types of motions that require seconders in the standing orders, but for the vast majority of cases, you will only ever need to worry about 2 types of motions that require seconders, and they both have to do with private members' resolutions or PMRs. So those 2 types of motions are the motion to move a PMR, as well as the motion to amend a PMR. If you are moving a PMR, find someone who is willing to make the second speech in the PMR debate, and note down their constituency in this field. If you are amending a PMR, it is a good idea to have the mover of the PMR second your motion so that they can verify that the amendment does not change the original intent of the PMR. More on that on our video on PMR debates, but if your motion is unrelated to PMRs, then you can leave this field blank. Lastly, we have the as follows section. This would be where you write down the content of your motion. So for instance, your motion might read like this: that section 1 be repealed, and then press submit. Now it is time to move your motion. In the Zoom chat, type in Honorable Speaker on a motion, or Honorable Chair on a motion. A motion takes priority over regular speeches, so the presiding officer will address motions before the next speech. When you are called, read out your motion, starting with the words, "I move that." Using the previous example, if you've submitted that section 1 be repealed, you would read out, "I move that section 1 be repealed." It is possible for the presiding officer to rule your motion out of order, in which case it is not formally raised. So that might happen if it was raised at the wrong time, or if an amendment motion was improperly worded, or some other reason that the presiding officer will explain. If that happens, don't worry, it's just part of the learning process. Parliament will then move on, but if applicable, you can try moving your motion again at the appropriate time. In this video, we went over how most motions need to be submitted in writing, and that you would do so in a designated Google form. We then went over filling out that form, and most importantly, went over that for the most part, the only motions that require seconders are the motion that moves a PMR and the motion that amends a PMR. We then went over the procedure for actually moving the motion in Parliament. I hope this video helped, and from here I recommend that you watch our video on how to word an amendment motion. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.